What's on your evil mind? Hold your insulting tongue and mark my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really hired, Mr. Stark?
Bar Weep Grunt. Wait, that's not. Hold on. Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. The sound effects you hear are being provided by the man, the myth, the legend, one agent _70, who you can find at agent _70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody? And
yeah, exactly. There you go. Got to get the cash in, cash out. And I am your host for tonight, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter, and well, because you can't find me on Instagram, but I don't post that much. And CPE Caps on Instagram, though you can go check that out whenever I get my behind out to posting some more stuff. You can also find me at News Nerds Need Twitter, News Nerds Need Reddit, and that's pretty much it right now. You can go to find our two missing co-hosts. Well, they're not missing. They're absent co-hosts at PCN_Dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and there's various sites under that umbrella. And of course, Tim DOGG98 on Twitter. You can find him TimDog98 on Twitter, like I just said. CB Cron on Twitter. You can find him at The Click Nation on Twitter. That's DKLIQNATION. And of course, theclicknation.com, where I'm hoping to put some stuff up there fairly soon-ish, something like that. And of course, Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off. Go check him out. You can find this podcast on Google Play and where did that voice come from? Google Play and Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, of course, Spotify, and the Coastal of the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And with that, folks, we are going to get into some books for the week. Starting with the biggest book of the week, some would say.
mm-hmm.
Marvel has a nice little line-wide, some would say, epic event starting that is called War of the Realms #1.
Absolutely. This is what a lot of books have been pointing towards and teasing, and a lot of momentum has been building in more than one Marvel title over the last several months leading into this event. And I have to tell you, it did not disappoint me.
Same. Yeah, this was as I said in my notes, it kind of escalated quickly. But then again, you know, the one thing we know about Jason Aaron and his writing, yeah, he will get to some action pretty quick.
It's true.
You know, without too much, like he's not like Brisson, just like, hey, it's all action all the time. But then like, he will make some humor. He'll throw some stuff in there and a little bit of dialogue in there. But he will just jump into some action when it's called for.
Right. I mean, we open with some strategic moves by Malekith and his evil and his team bad guy.
Yeah, I felt like there was I almost felt there was a Game of Thrones type, and maybe it's just that's just culturally, around. I haven't been watching the show, but
it was a mix of, to me, it was a mix of that. It was a mix of Michael Corleone saying, we're handling all family business right now.
Yeah,
it was like a multifaceted, right? It was a multifaceted, multi-stage plan to take out. Yeah, to take out, all of his enemies.
Mm-hmm. Which almost, well, we don't know how they fared in at
Right.
least one case. Let's put it that way, because we saw some things went down,
Right.
but you know, we don't know if it was final or not. I suspect that's going to come up fairly soon, though.
Right. In a sense, we sort of don't see the bodies,
Yes.
and we don't have finality to some of the events of this book. But it's a great start. It's a great starting point. As I said, it does remind you of you know, we don't get the finality of maybe Mo Green getting his catching a bullet through the eye, you know. But shout out to the Godfather there. But you know, while we don't get that, we definitely get a lot of great scenes that have been developing over the course of, you know, as I mentioned, over the course of several months and in several key Marvel books. I'm loving the fact that Thori is getting to play a really great. He's not necessarily comedic relief. He's not necessarily you know, being played strictly for laughs, because you know, but it's just a nice touch that that Aaron has kind of twisted and thrown in here. I never thought Thori was going to be around this long and play this much of a role, but there he is.
Well, and like we have said with you know, Aaron, and with his other stuff, he likes to play with his toys any chance he gets.
Sure.
So, and that comes up as much here as in other books that he's written probably this week and other weeks. I'm like, so we also there seems to be some would argue some MCU references in here, particularly you know, where there's Thor. Well, you know, where there's Thor, there's his brother, and there's definitely some art that would suggest that there is a certain version of Thor that has a moment.
I guess.
You can't look at that page and not say that kind of looks like him.
I may know which version you're talking about. What's weird is that we're still dealing with the long-haired Thor. So maybe that helps kind of mask it somewhat. But I got, you know, it's funny that you mentioned the art. Dowderman's probably been taking a small break from any other commitments to do this.
Right.
And you could tell that he put the time in. You know, this does not look like a rushed book. This does not. Not.
There's a lot going on these pages. And
it does not look like he skimped anywhere on this. And what's funny is that we were lucky enough to get a review copy of the director's cut book. You know, it's that extra size book. It definitely costs a pretty penny on the shelf at your local comic shop.
It might be worth it if you are, you know, into the behind the scenes. You know.
Exactly, because this particular director's cut edition is beautiful. There's a lot of really interesting and neat stuff that is contained within its pages, and especially like seeing inked, you know, processed art pages as well. Like you see the difference between what the inked pages look like and how much the colorist puts in. And shout out to the colorist, you get to see exactly what goes into it. Was it Matthew Wilson?
Probably.
You know, he's been doing bang up work on this book for ages. Yep, Matthew Wilson. And you get to see, you know, exactly what he adds to the drawn page.
Yeah. So like the art was definitely part of the star out, you know, outside of the written, you know, the written word. But like I said, it starts off hitting on a few different cylinders and kind of escalates quickly.
Right. And we kind of get a natural assembling of the heroes. It's not necessarily
seemingly, yeah. Right. But at the same time, you know, it was like, hey, so just a little bit of the premise. Well, before we get into that real quick, you probably, if you're going to, you don't necessarily need it, but it's probably good to have some foreknowledge of what's been going on in Thor books specifically.
Sure.
Because that's where a lot of this stuff is jumping off at. Because I know I read this thing without having read, and I know you're the Thor reader of the crew, and well, maybe probably Tim does too, or
I was about to say I think Tim started reading it, especially once Jane Foster Thor came along.
Right. And so that being said, I saw I think it was like page 1 or 2 or 3 was like, where the hell did Thor get all those hammers from?
That's definitely something. That's definitely something you need to read the Thor book to understand.
Yeah, and I was like, wait, was that Stormbreaker? What is going on?
Yeah. Well, you know what happened to Mjolnir, right?
Yeah, that I know. And then then he ended up with Yarnborn, and and then I know there was another hammer made for him.
Right. Well, mild spoiler alert. I'll ring the bell. All right. So basically, he's had a dwarf forging multiple hammers for him that aren't as sturdy as Mjolnir, just so that he has some weapons to use.
Sounds familiar.
So.
Right, and he uses them to some effect in the beginning of the story.
Oh, and at the end.
Yeah, and at the end of the story, throughout this whole thing. So that was kind of a thing, and yeah, like I said, starting off with the Dark Ops,
sure,
and the meeting of the Martins, and going back to the natural progression of everybody meeting together. It was like, yeah, okay, so everybody, so there's a war coming to the 10 realms. It's already about to kind of been going off in the other 9 realms, and now it's on Earth. Right. And of course, they picked the one place on Earth where there's a lot of heroes congregating, which again, like Age of 70 said, is where the natural progression of heroes start to roll in.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, sure, okay, that's gonna happen. Like that would be this is something that you would think would happen more often. Like, hey, like I said, Dormammu's people, invaded the Earth in Doctor Strange's book. Nobody else was around except for him. Like, come on, how often would that actually have happened? And then this happens, like everybody just rolls out, or almost everybody, but you know what I'm saying. A bunch of sources just start rolling in. I'm like, of course that's going to happen, because yes, they're right there where everybody is.
Right. Well, as you mentioned earlier, Aaron's playing with his toys. Remember, he's also writing Avengers, so they're brought in immediately, literally through Thori.
Yeah.
and
he wrote Doctor Strange, who also shows up.
Right. And one of my favorite lines in this is Spidey, Peter Parker Spidey.
Yes.
Saying those are the Avengers, and Cap is sort of answering.
Wait, no, that was Daredevil.
No.
Because people was already there.
Hold on. Let's see.
I think that was Daredevil, because Daredevil was talking to Black Panther.
Oh, that's it. You're right. It is Daredevil. Those are the
that's the Avengers? No offense.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is great. It is Daredevil. You're right. That is so funny. Oh, that's right, because Spidey is the first one on the scene.
Right.
Because what all the listeners have to understand, and the viewers at home have to understand, is that the Asgardians have fallen upon very hard times and have taken refuge in the Bronx. So
and not Brooklyn. Surprising.
Right.
But, yeah.
They have taken refuge in the Bronx. So it's all sorts of mayhem stems from that particular story point, that there's an assemblage of Asgardians who are unfortunately targets.
Yes, one being the All Mother Freya, who, surprisingly enough, why didn't they all go to Queens?
Oh yeah, right. No idea. But,
I coming to America like, where should we go? Queens.
Sure.
But,
yeah, no, you're right. What's funny? What threw me was that what I remembered is that the arm that references the character who's asking, those are the Avengers, is red, and that's what I remembered. And I didn't look at the previous panel. I literally just had to scroll up to the previous panel,
right,
to see that it's Daredevil. So But it's great that Aaron has Cap say, "Yeah, we're here," and and he says, and mild spoiler alert, he says the dog is new.
Yeah,
God, I was cracking up.
Like that was a MCU type moment there.
Yeah.
Like, wait, is this Avengers? Like, yeah, we're all, whatever. Oh yeah, the dog is new. Because Thor was like, I'm gonna eat up all the elves or whatever.
Yeah, and Blade is just like, I'm as surprised as you are.
Yeah.
That's I was about to say that I felt like that was Roddykat being all meta in that one. Right there. It's like, I'm as surprised as you are that I'm still here.
Yeah,
you're getting get rid of me just because the vampire story is over.
Right. I was like, you know what? I was like, all right, that was well played. Well played.
It's funny.
So, and once again shows that, like I said, Aaron likes to play with his toys. He's, so. And granted, we don't necessarily know. Well, I guess we have a pretty good idea of around the time where this is, because especially where Avengers is at this point. So kind of not that it matters that much, but whether that still is going to hold up in a couple of issues later from, in an issue later or two from Avengers, which I think we kind of know as much, is the thing. But yeah, like I said, the War of the Realms kind of kicked off pretty nicely. There was some. Okay, so again, going back to the kind of an MCU type reference type thing, something happens to a character, and which made me think, like, is this character really has this character actually really been dealt with, or like is that the thing?
It's tough to spoil it, but even the remark I'm about to make kind of spoils it. It's the first of many we've seen in a long time,
right? And then what messed up part about it was like, because I read the page after that, I was like, nobody really reacted all that strongly about it outside of the fact that, like, oh, this happened, huh?
Freya did.
But everybody else that you would think there would have been like a moment of. But no, this is like, this happened.
Ghost Rider did.
Well, yeah.
What's funny is that Freya did. Ghost Rider acts like the new kid that he is, and I think that's what you're getting at. And everyone else is just like, okay, let's move, get into fighting positions. Yeah,
right. Like, hey, this happened. We got to, get the sparking. So wait, was it this? And a nice, beautiful Cap moment, which you'll probably see on CB Caps in the coming day or two by Cap. A line Cap says, it was like, you want to get these hands? You're going to get them, or something like that. I was like, yeah, Cap. Get the hands. I'm like, that is something that sounds like very uncap like, but at the same time, like, okay,
that's a modern Cap.
Exactly.
That is Cap's vocabulary updating with the times, because that's not even something I would say.
Right.
So
I was like, oh, okay, yeah, Cap's all about catching hands. I'm like, yes.
Yeah. That is definitely something that, like, Cap has been watching too many TV shows or movies or something, constantly trying to catch up on. Constantly trying to keep up with today's culture.
So,
all the guys in his barbershop quartet are dead. Remember? So he's trying to stay
down that list.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, needless to say, War of the Realm #1 kicks off pretty nicely.
It's a lot of fun. Potential click of the week for me. Huge delivery on it's funny, like, what we've had a problem with a lot of, we've had a similar problem with a lot of the Marvel events, is that if they start out strong, they don't necessarily stick the landing.
Actually, events in general, as of late, because if you think about Heroes in Crisis, we've had some issues with that, and that one started off pretty nicely.
Right. But that's generally right. That's generally that's been our experience over the last several events, and I'm hoping that this is different. I hope that that Aaron follows through and sticks the landing on this, because this is a great opening salvo for this story. For the story.
Well, we do know of, and I'm hoping this still plays out, but we do know that, you know, him working on, with the exception of one that we mentioned before the show started, even in that one, that, you know, whatever, when he works on events, there's usually some good stuff comes out of it. Like, let's, you know, Secret War.
Right. And what's great is, you know, what we've had some. I don't know if you had a chance to talk. Well, I mean, we talked about it last week. You know, we know what's coming out of the X books in the wake of Age of X-Men. It's going to be interesting to see where the Marvel Universe finds itself in the wake of War of the Realms.
Right.
You know, given all of the things that are supposed to happen in all of the crossover books.
Right. Which is pretty much everything Marvel's putting out for the next few months, seems like.
Pretty much. I mean, this is one of those things where you realize that there's only X number of heroes on the Marvel Earth, and when you assemble
visible one,
right? Well, when you assemble armies worth of bad guys, even the group of, and this is true in the MCU as well, you can overwhelm, you know, what seems like a ton of heroes with just sheer numbers. And that's essentially what we're getting here. And these aren't just what are those War Dog type characters in Infinity War again? I forget what they were.
Chitauri.
Oh well, yeah, the
Infinity War.
Infinity War. Yeah, the Chitauri is a good call though. That's a similar thing too from the first Avengers.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? The alt riders, Black off riders, something like that.
Oh, yeah. Off-Rider sounds funny, but I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember.
Right. But those kind of like semi-mindless drones that they just send in waves.
Right.
Was it the Outriders?
That sounds right. The Motor was commanded.
That's gonna bother me until I Google it. But anyway, my point, but my point still stands in that whatchamacallit, you can overwhelm even the mightiest group of heroes with just sheer numbers. So, you know, it's just really, it's Outriders. It is Outriders.
Yeah.
It is Outriders. So, you know, what we saw in Infinity War plays just as well on the comic page here.
Which again goes back to what I said earlier.
Right. It's been the same thing, you know, the last time. And what's funny is that if you get the director's cut, you see some of the books that Aaron is referencing.
Yes.
And some of them are from the Simonson run, like directly from some of the panels are directly from the story arc of the invasion of Earth by Surtur's demons. That was the arc in Simonson's run. This takes it up, you know, another 8 notches because you've got armies from several of the other 10 realms invading as well, and that's why this is even, you know, crazier than that previous story was. Exactly.
And now that I believe we have exhausted that one out, we will be talking about. Wait, is this is not weekly?
I do not think so.
Let's see. Pre-order issue 2.
Yeah, what you're gonna get are some of the crossover books.
Bi-weekly. So
yeah, you're gonna get some of the crossover books in a week. And there's going to be a lot of, you know, stuff going on in the pages of Thor, and as you mentioned, in the pages of a lot of the other books too. Yeah, there's a handy dandy checklist at the back, which covers a lot of books that only cover Act 1, The World at War.
Right, and there's also, which I didn't read it, and I totally totally forgot. There was a War of the Realms. We talked about it. There was a War of the Realms book that came out a week or two ago. You can still find it. It's out there. It's free that they were giving away. So you can go to your local comic shop or you can go to Comixology.
Right.
I'm trying to find it here, wherever it is. But regardless, it's out there. I know I know I did.
It looks like a magazine.
Yes.
It looks like a magazine. I happened to come across one. I walked into a comic shop that's a different comic shop, and they handed me one. It's a Marvel Universe magazine that teases a lot of the stuff that's happening in War of the Realms. It's pretty informative for those who are not in the know, and gotta tell you, it's there's some interesting stuff coming, and they're using this as a launch point for some interesting characters, specifically international characters.
Okay.
It's like, I think they're the ones from the video games, like Swordmaster and Arrow.
Right.
And they're launching that new Filipina character in New Agents of Atlas. So.
Right, and actually, there's another book where another character comes out, but we'll probably mention. But yeah, so that being that, and I'll try to put that book in the show notes, even though I think it's been we've talked about it before. But let us move on to our next book, which is the other Marvel comic event.
That's continuing.
That's actually heading to the finish line. And that is Avengers No Road Home number 8. And the main thing you can say about this one is that this event has been going fairly rapidly. It's been coming out outside of the fact that it's been coming out every week.
Right.
And the way it's being written kind of shows that, and that's not a bad thing, because it's like, you know what, this is going to happen next week. They don't have to really pad it out to where it's like, hey, this is going to be a month, so we would have got to put a whole lot in and, make sure people remember it.
What I was going to say is you could tell that the events of the story are taking place within the span of less than a week.
Yes.
This is definitely like rapid fire storytelling.
Yes. So, and if you're doing a weekly thing, like I say, you can be afforded that.
Exactly. It definitely you're definitely blending into the pace of the release as well. So, and I think that's what Roddykat was getting at. In the story proper, we have, it's funny that we've returned to a planet that if you were reading the Allred and Slott Silver Surfer will be familiar, and it seems like that the aspects of this planet are going to come into play. And as mentioned in the afterward and in
exactly.
the tease.
And I was wondering, like, what they picked this particular planet, and it sounded familiar, and I couldn't put my finger as to why.
Right.
This seems a weird place to put this, and then there it is.
Same. So it's cool that as you mentioned before about Aaron kind of using his toys, it's kind of cool that the group of Marvel writers. It's a group of writers. This is Wade and Zub and I forget who else.
Al Ewing.
Wade's obviously Al Ewing because of Immortal Hulk stuff. Wade, Zub, Al Ewing, and it's just the three of them, right? Those three definitely have their fingers into all of Marvel continuity.
Right.
And they're like, oh, this will be a great thing to incorporate, and it's cool. No need to unnecessarily create something out of whole cloth. We can actually use this and weave it into the story.
Right.
Something that's relatively a relatively new creation from the mind of Slott and Allred. Minds of Slott and Allred.
Right. Which I feel like there's been a lot of references lately in books, specifically on the Marvel side, to other things like we just saw in like we just saw in this and in War of the Realms.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not War of the Realms, but that's a slightly different thing. But just specifically this week, and well, you can probably argue about the next book we'll talk about, but we'll get there when we get there.
Right.
But kind of come up, there's just kind of keeping everything kind of jailed. It's like, hey, this was a thing. you know, that gets referenced in this other thing that's just happened, or happened fairly recently, or at the like. So it's cool. I like this issue because well, we gotta get a couple of different perspectives, and I thought something was gonna happen to a character because of it, but that didn't happen. Like, we do know there's possibly going to be a death, possibly, but I think that one might be a known issue if you've been reading what's been going on in that book. But we don't know if that's the case or not. But one reason why I kind of like this issue was that, like, this is a part of Hawkeye that made me a fan of him, like, a long time ago.
Sure.
It's like, yes, he's over here with the Hulk and Rocket Raccoon on his one planet, and yeah, he and the Hulk had, some obvious issues to work out, or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
And then they found themselves up against Nyx, and the Hulk's like, yeah, y'all go ahead and I got this. And Hawkeye's like, I have never run away from a fight before. Grab me, make me a bowl. Let's do this. And it was like, that's the Hawkeye that I know and love, because it was like, yeah, from back in the day, the young Scrappy is like, I got something to prove. Like, I'm in this fight, with the rest of these folks, and I'm gonna do whatever I can.
Right, because this is definitely not one of those times when he's going to be like the default leader. You know, like, this is not like a West Coast Avengers type thing. I understand that he's sort of like one of the leaders or co-leaders of that group.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's kind of a field leader.
Right.
But yeah. So there was that, and then of course you had the thing with the Hulk, which I guess to some effect, if you've read especially this week's Immortal Hulk, kind of ends up happening to him on a couple of occasions. It was like, well, he thought he had the upper hand, and then something just kind of happens. His weakness gets exploited. Exactly.
He falls into a trap, basically.
Yes. So that's that. The one thing I kind of wonder is, like, okay, we got Rocket Raccoon. We know he can make weapons, and he did apparently make some arrowheads or something for Hawkeye. And I was like, okay, he's gonna sit here and hopefully he'll sit here and make a bow, like a nice high-tech bow or something. With with whatever's lying around, that guy's leg or something. Like, no, he just made a couple.
No, they basically strung it from from like a good piece of wood.
Yeah, like Clanton just grabbed a couple of pieces of wood, was like, yeah, make me a bow. I'm like, wait, you know how to do this yourself? Why? But sure, okay. And I was like, how much do you know about Rocket to know that he could even do that?
Enough, apparently.
So that was a slight question, but outside of that, I was like, okay. And it was like, and then of course they get together and and do their moment thing, and Hulk has a Hulk moment where it's like, actually like, all right, manned up. So
yeah, so like you said, we're getting into the home stretch, and this is shaping up to be a good ending. I like that. I've never been a fan of the Games Master stories. Just never, It's kind of annoying that, like, the one crossover I was dying to see. A lot of people were dying to see the JLA Avengers that Pick and Perez did. It was mostly like a Game Master thing, and like, I understand, it has its place in the storytelling, as a storytelling trope, but it's kind of cool that this particular group of Avengers, like this kind of ragtag, but still a pretty formidable assembly of Avengers, basically has to go up one of the Greek gods, run amok.
Right.
That's we're not talking about a demigod like Hercules. We're talking about like one of the major members of the pantheon.
Right. And come out no one come out not the worse for wear, given what
there's still 2 issues left.
Well, there is that too, but like, and we do know there's a potential something that's
exactly
especially if the letters page, or the page after the story, is an indication with the cover. which sometimes that's not in the case. But as I said, like I said, if you read the story, you kind of know it's kind of sort of leading up to that, or it could be potentially leading up to that. So, and what is 2 issues left? Because I think there is 10 issues, right?
Yes.
Yeah, 10 issues of this. So next is going to be to start turning the corner and getting to where it's the end of it, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yep. All right.
Next book, I guess we said we were going to roll into Champions number 4.
We have some feelings about this book.
We do, yes. Now, both of us generally have loved Champions.
Sure, in its numerous iterations.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess you can. Wait, are you actually talking about the old, the original?
Well, at the very least, in this
okay, I was about to say.
I was about to say, at the very least, what I'm referring to is this new Teen Titan style champion.
Sure. Okay, I wanted to make that.
Yeah, I mean, we're not throwing a ton of shade at the San Francisco champions of old.
No. But yes, but definitely this iteration with this group. So that being said, this issue was basically bringing to a head of something that we knew was coming. In fact, the last issue's cover kind of alluded to what should have happened, what you would think would have happened in the issue, and that's where we start having questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fairly certain we're on the same page with that.
Yeah, I'm going to ring the spoiler bell because you definitely have to be caught up on Champions to kind of get at what we're going to be critiquing in the next few minutes. So, spoiler alert.
All right. So, from the start of this book, in fact, so this volume, I should say, so Miles Morales Spidey made it, and Amadeus Cho made a deal with, well, specifically Miles, but whatever, Amadeus was there, made a deal with Mephisto to save a couple of teammates who had died during a mission.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it was a brand new day, and that is as still apparent in this and that is the other part of the questions that we have, because again, Mephisto is a part of this, whose designs become clear at the end of this issue, and I'm sitting here like, surely you don't have anything better to do than to be this petty and with Spider Folk.
Yeah. Oh, I heard an echo.
On your enemy.
I just heard my voice come out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't hear it. So that's one thing we have, because like, you don't have anything better to do than the like, and some way around was like, okay, your motivations are like, sure, that makes some kind of sense, but come on, you have little grander designs than this, and to be messing with, again, Spider Folks, like who he even mentions is like, yeah, I just like messing with I have a particular thing with the Spider Folks,
right? So I wanted to just touch on what happens in the book, and then I'm going to circle back to that because it sort of fits in. We're at a point in the story where it looks like they're possibly recruiting another member by accident.
Oh, I hope so.
Right?
I want to see that.
So what I'm referring to an X-Men, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Dust.
Yes.
And the group is responding to a situation, and Dust happens to be involved, and that involves it involves the disappearance of the X-Men.
Well, there's that, and I was about to say, and also coincidentally involves the potential losing for a minute of another team member.
Right. And I was getting to that. Well, what we have is a development with regards to Sam Alexander and his, and the whole like kind of issue of him being an unpowered pilot. He's all of a sudden like, John Jameson pilot for Captain America running around,
minus the man wolf.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and that's again, since we're talking back to that, that's another thing that was got questions about, because okay, so So during the course of this other thing that happened with Mephisto and the deal and bringing, the couple of teammates back to life, and Miles and Amadeus is kind of living with the choice, more Miles than Amadeus, because he was the one who actually made that decision.
Exactly.
So that whole thing was going on, and then we had this other side story from last issue where an old enemy of Sam's comes back to, just happens to find him, comes back and attack him, thinking that he still had his Nova powers. And this is where I had the issue. Like, okay, they finally take this person down, and then they just like, hey, I don't have my powers, and she's like, in almost Dragon Ball Z type fashion, it's like, wait, I want to fight you in full power. We can't have this. I don't want to take your life while you're unpowered and weak and this and that and the other. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna go and go steal your helmet.
Oh my God!
I'm gonna pick you and go steal your helmet, and then we're gonna have a fight out for real. And
oh my God!
And Sam's like, okay. So I'm gonna go off with her, and I'm gonna go find my helmet, and but I'll be back. And she's like, and it's like, you won't be back. He's like, I'll be back. So, but I'm saying, like, why are you even do this? But at the same time, it's like, well, then you have to think of it. It's like, okay, well, this gets him out of the way for what's coming up next month, which is going back to War of the Realms. Blah.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that. Whether he comes back for or during the course of World of Realms, we'll see. We don't know, or whether he'll be powered.
Mm-hmm.
They will reference this rematch or whatever. We don't know. But so that was the one. Like, like, would that even be a thing that you would do? Like, I know you want your powers back, but I'm like, this person is trying to kill you when you get your powers.
It was just a weird, I mean, it's one of those. What's funny is that if it weren't for sort of the side story,
right,
or the two concurrent storylines going along, you would think that because of what's going on with Ms. Marvel and Spidey in this one,
mm-hmm.
they're not able to kind of gather the troops to go after them. And I would presume that's going to happen in the next issue anyway.
Well, I guess, because there looks like
the next issue is going to be War of the Realms.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So I don't know if that's how they're going to work that. Well, presumably, given what happened in the book, Ms. Marvel is going to be, because what seems to be is like, Sam's out in space, so he's going to. It looks like Spidey may be out the picture for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense because he's going to be in another miniseries, War of the Realms. Anyway, that's not saying that he couldn't still be in this, but right. Because the rift that happens, let's get into that part. So, Miles finally tells Kamala, about the deal and what happened, and that she was one of the ones that died, and her and Viv was the ones that died. Which, oddly enough, kind of, now to think about it, I feel like there's a no road home, because if you think about a page of that, but regardless, that's a whole nother situation. Okay, so Miles tells Kamala, and she reacts in the way that's one kind of on brand, but still doesn't make any kind of sense for this story. Because she was like, it's my fault, and this and that. I was like, okay, yeah, that has been her in this book, but at the same time, it's like, wait, so you're more concerned about that than the fact that how in the world could you make this decision? How would you worry? Could you just blatantly just make this decision? When the outcome of it, regardless of what happened. This is me thinking that now, not.
Yeah, right. I was about to say that's like the alternative thought process,
which would have been the one, right? And what seemed like would be the one, and I'm just basing this on the last cover, because the cover was her kind of being really upset about
the choice,
whereas she's upset not about the choice, but putting it on herself as the team lead. I'm like, okay, again, on brand, but still like, no, this is, how is that a direction you had to have for this? Which leads to, Miles leaving the team because he says he can't face her and face the team because of the yada yada yada. But I'm sitting there like, that should not have been the takeaway from the choice. Like, yeah, okay, have that moment at some point later on, but just like, no, that's weird. But it is what it was, and that's where I had the questions about this issue.
Well, I mean, I think the big questions about this issue come up at the very end, and it's funny
because, and that goes back to what I said originally. Right.
Yeah, getting back to what we started off with, because we didn't want to give the entire comic short shrift.
Right.
There definitely is some good stuff in here, but it's towards the end of the book where you're kind of left scratching your head and saying, "Huh?"
Yes. Again, going back to the fact that Mephisto. This is Mephisto talking to his son, who's apparently, I don't know when that happened.
Blackheart? That's an old.
No. I know who he is, and he's shown up fairly recently. But the fact that Mephisto has him locked up, I'm assuming that happened.
I think that's like an on and off thing.
Well, yeah, they have the thing, but the fact that Mephisto is kind of holding him at bay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that happened. I feel like we saw that happen in a book, and I don't remember where. That might have been in Champions, but I'm not sure.
Damnation, maybe?
No, because did Blackheart show up in Damnation? I don't remember.
I'm gonna have to reread Damnation. I don't remember much of it. So.
Yeah, regardless, it might have been something that happened. At this point, it doesn't matter. But and Mephisto is basically, hey, so this is basically why I'm doing this, and it's, as I said before, pretty petty. Like, yeah, I don't, it's like, yeah, I got, this thing with again, going back to Brand New Day, I was like, I got this thing with the spider people, and like, I messing with them. And then at this point, I was like, yeah, instead of me getting him while, when he's an adult and could definitely buck the fact that that he made this wish, he get him while he's young and get him, before he gets to that point, and, have, go from there. And then I got him. And I'm sitting here like, that's still like, you could possibly have better thing to do than to just screw with these one or two people in this, for the pettiest of reasons.
It's wild. And what's funny? I guess it's my fixation on this group of heroes being the Teen Titans of the Marvel Universe.
Mm-hmm.
And I see, there are not exact parallels to the Wolfman Perez run, but I'm like, but just in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is their Trigon or Trigon, this is their Trigon, like, the big devil the big devil villain in there.
Oh, definitely the devil, the devil character. Yes, but
but
go that far.
I think it's just I think it's just the red that's messing with the with the perception that I have. So
sure, and I suspect, and unlike Trigon, who has been a constant, pain in the side of the Teen Titans, I don't think Mephisto's is probably gonna that probably won't happen,
right? Unless they start recruiting a teenage
Blackheart or something.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine if Blackheart becomes a member. Oh boy, now we're
I feel like they fought, so I don't know if that's what actually, but that doesn't mean anything. But yeah, that would be crazy.
That would be freaking funny.
Anyway. But yeah, so yeah, listen, generally we enjoy Champions, and the book has been pretty good and a lot of times. This one is probably the one we've had actually the most issue with in ever.
And ultimately, because before this relaunch, the book was basically like, let's create all these teen heroes out of various corners of the Marvel universe, and let's see if we can get some of them to stick after we throw them all against the wall. So
right.
So that we don't have to necessarily rely on these core characters all the time. And that's you applaud that.
Mm-hmm.
That's commendable. But in this particular story, that that was relaunched only a few months ago. We're only on issue number 4 in this current volume.
Mm-hmm.
This particular volume is taking on a couple of different strange turns.
Yeah. And I do know that and it has been said that Zeb's wanted to do that trope about, hey, you want to break the team down to build it back up type situation, and this is his way of doing that. So we know that this is what this is doing, but it's still the way it's being handled is still kind of weird. Not saying it's just a bad word, because he started out pretty good with that that D&D thing that it started off with. So just like I said, I'm not saying he's a bad writer. It's just like, this was just a weird issue.
It's a strange direction to take the team in. So we'll see how this plays out over the next several issues.
Indeed, which is going to get interrupted by War of the Realms. So I don't think that's gonna. I assume that's not going to come back up like that.
Well, what it is there. And mild spoilers, but anyone who reads this book or has seen any of the solicitation news knows that they're actually going to weave in another story point.
Yes,
in the War of the Realms crossover, by bringing back Cyclops in his now adult form, who remembers everything thanks to what happened in the pages of X-Men. So it's definitely weaving in another aspect of the recent Champions history. Yeah.
So, but whether any of that other stuff gets touched in while they're doing that, it remains at this point.
Exactly. We're sidetracked somewhat.
Yes. So, which happens when events cross over into books you're reading that may or may not or should have anything to do with the event. I think just to round this back on home to Champions, I think to end this off, the only other is the little small thing I had in kind of a problem with, or something that kind of seemed strange to me. It was like, how is Falcon, the Joachim version, carrying Braun? Because you would think he would be like, he. Like, wow, Falcon's that strong to be carrying him like that was, with very little effort.
But he's supposed to be, I was about to say, he's supposed to be like a mutant or mutated type character.
Yes.
So he must have gotten some sort of enhanced strength with that.
He did, but at the same time, well, yeah. And as a matter of fact, I almost put it in my notes. I was like, go Red Wing, because that's pretty much how he got his powers.
That's right.
So, but yeah, like I said, I kind of wrote it off as that, but at the same time, I was like,
are you waiting to hear Amadeus say, I had a big breakfast?
Or something like that. So,
shout out to Winter Soldier, people. Go out and watch the movie. Catch up on that stuff before Endgame.
Yeah, we got news on that coming up in the news section going over. But to get to that point, let us move on to another book, which I guess we did say we were going to go to, Justice League number 21, which we both read. This is a potential click of the week for some folks, or for at least one or two folks.
What book are we on?
Justice League.
Ah, okay, Justice League.
So my notes says this, and this is me, and I should probably stop doing this, but in my notes I have, starting off, Justice League Infinity War No Road Home. Because there seems to be, and it is not an outright secret that Marvel and DC, and I'm not saying that this is the case here, but Marvel and DC kind of tends to read from the same playbook fairly often in their events.
At the same time
lately, especially. Yes. So there's nothing saying one way or the other that is the case, but I'm just saying that there seems to be shades from other events that we have read or are reading in this book. And it's not even an event, it's just a regular book. Although it is leading up to an event. I know. We do know this.
Right. Snyder's building, and he's been building from the beginning of this Justice League run.
Mm-hmm. So, and here we come to where that starts to become apparent, because the Justice League is in supposedly the sixth dimension. We don't know where they actually are. It is some definite division. They're one of Nyx's children. I mean, one of what is the woman's name? Paranoia, not Paranoia. Perpetua.
Right.
One of her children, whom apparently DC fans will know as the Monitor, Anti-Monitor, and the World Builder.
Right. This is from Dark Knight's Metal.
Okay, yeah, which I did not read, so you have to forgive me for that. But so one of them shows up here, and we get the plan. We get to see what they were going for in this, or what they were kind of going for, which kind of had shades of Injustice. Weirdly enough, the comic book, the video game turned comic book, or I guess vice versa. I can't remember which way it happened.
I think you got it right. It started as a video game.
Yeah. But regardless, there's shades of that in that, hey, this is also played out in like Justice League and Justice League the cartoon and stuff like that. It's just like, hey, dude, imagine a world where the Justice League kind of took everything under control and this and that and other. Well, this is where they ended up, and it was peaceful and all that kind of stuff. But of course, there was everything was not right in Whoville. Meanwhile, the Superman, they thought they were.
I was about to say, hold on, hold that thought. It never is.
Yes.
Now you can go on.
You are absolutely right. So, and then we get to the point where it's like, okay, we find out what's really going on and who's behind it, which again is, like I said, the World Builder, and who goes off and who pretty much explains what he wants out of, the Justice League. Meanwhile, he also sets a trap, which we find the Superman that they thought they were talking to is our Superman. And he's in a trap made by the World Builder, because the World Builder is like, look, you're the one that screws all this up. So here you will stay. And we've seen this before. They literally said those words, which means I'm like, wait, are we talking crises? Which, yes, kind of, but not really. So apparently this has all happened before, and which also gave me shades of Secret Wars.
Right.
Because and that. So, but there's a really good page. That being said, page 4 is one I note that the art was really, really nice on because of what happens in that one. On that page, and that's just me personally. I don't know. Like, I know Tim said he liked this issue, but he didn't necessarily say why. But page 4 was like, dang, that's a page, and it's not that. It's like that. It's just an outstanding page. It's just what happens on that page is like. Right. So, but that being said, to round this all out, unless you have something else to say.
No, just the only thing to add to it is that there's a choice that is given to the Justice League, and they're debating whether or not to choose to act in judgment and or in prejudgment of certain people, or to choose not to act. And it's that choice.
For war.
Sort of. So, at the end of the day, what you have is, that conundrum that's put to the team, and once they make their choice, the story, the wheels of the story go round and round once that happens. So. Right,
but they did end up going to a choice apparently, and whether that choice actually bared out to what we see near the end of that book, or is that another world that the World Builder has built to kind of show them what would happen. We don't know that just yet. We do see a Superman ally come into the fold at the end of this book, looking hardcore, I guess, for lack of a better word.
That's funny.
Yeah, so we will see what's going on in that going forward. Like, now, I did not start up on because I haven't been reading Dark Knight's Metal and the whole Civil War thing. I've only been hearing glimpses about from pretty much any other DC book I've been reading.
Right.
So Justice League I kind of came on like in the last couple of issues. So there's some things I'm not, which luckily you don't necessarily need because they kind of mention it a good decent, like, hey, the source wall, what you did with the source wall, which, and another thing that happens in this, speaking of source wall, I'm like, wait, is the source wall an allegory for the fourth wall? Because they looks like they totally broke it, including one page where it looks like they broke it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, when they talk about taking things out of existence or imagining things out of existence, yeah.
I'm like, wow, they went almost literal with that.
Right. I mean, the source wall, I think, is a lot of things there. I think they're playing with what it really means.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, if my New Gods and Dark Side mythology is lacking, it might just be from being tired, but like once you get like the anti-life equation, you kind like that's like the key to seeing what's on the other side of the source wall. That was the old mythology, I think. Right. Forgive me for screwing that up, ladies and gentlemen who were listening and or watching. But the bottom line is, they've been playing with what the real effects of the source wall breaking are going to be, and what the ramifications have been to this point. So there's a lot rolling off of that. We're dealing with another dimension as well. This is supposed to be another reality that the World Forger has created. So this is his masterpiece. Which character? What cartoon character said that? So, this is my masterpiece. It was like a painter. Sounds familiar, right?
Yeah, it does sound familiar, but I'm not sure.
That's a Google search for another time. But in any event, we're left with the cliffhanger that's pretty interesting. So we'll see where we go from here. There's a lot to be said about this story arc, which unfortunately to me feels like I'm going to understand better when I read it, either in a binge read or as a collected edition.
As one coming into this kind of fresh, quote unquote, you would do to have some knowledge of what's been going on prior to this before reading this.
This is totally not new reader friendly.
Yeah, like granted, you can come into this and be like, okay, that's happening. They reference things and that, but yeah, you kind of want to know. Like it's not heavily thrown upon, but it's so entrenched in what's been going on from Metal,
right,
and on past that where you don't want to go into this like I did. Like I know relatively enough about what's going on from you guys.
Mm-hmm.
To where it's like, okay, I can go back and check that stuff out later because you guys kind of talked about it, in some terms. But yeah, you don't want to go in this blind.
All right,
it's still a good read, but it's like, no, you miss out. You're missing so much. Anyway, so let us move on to, I guess this is the point to where we have. We start to break apart. Well, we do have a couple other books that we've read.
We also want to get to rapid fire soon.
We definitely do. So, and we'll keep the next couple that we have brief, and then we go into rapid. So, right. Immortal Hulk number 16, just to kind of chuck one out. Actually, what I expected to happen in this issue didn't happen. But we also have a couple of revelations, and apparently we have a mutation.
This might be something when I just read your note, and this might be something you don't necessarily remember.
That's probably true because I don't remember that happening.
So, spoiler bell. I think Al Ewing is digging deep into the Marvel vaults on this one.
Oh, this is totally shows, especially from that last page. But yes,
right, we're digging deep. When I say that, I think what Rod is referring to is what happened to Betty after the events of the last issue. And just as a quick recap, the Shadow Base commander, General 14, I guess it's 14.
Fordian, yeah,
Fordian, yeah,
sure.
Who's going after Banner, and all of the Gamma irradiated folks, and is employing Bushwhacker to do it. Sends Bushwhacker in, and Bushwhacker tries to take out Betty. And what's left of Betty, in the resulting crime scene, is I rang the spoiler bell, but I'm going to ring the feathers.
Yes.
And I take it you did not remember that Betty at one point became the Harpy? Does that ring a bell? Because that's the Gamma mutation that that is referenced, because that's what they show.
Right.
So
wait, was she red during that? Because we know she became Red She-Hulk at some point.
Yeah, that's after.
Yes. Okay.
That's after. My guess is that the Harpy stuff. The Harpy stuff is the first time that she's Gamma irradiated. Although it looks like the Harpy that we see here is mostly green on the cover of the very first appearance in Incredible Hulk 168, all the way back in October of 1973. But I'm sure that I'm fairly certain that in future iterations of the Harpy, before she became Red She-Hulk, there was some red splashed in there. So
okay, so this is basically just essentially a mixing of the two.
Right.
Okay.
Well, ultimately, it was nice to see, the original Gamma creature that she turns into brought back.
Right.
Because I think we were all thinking that if she was going to come back from the dead, it would be as a Red She-Hulk, but nope.
Right. And yeah, because that's what it kind of seemed like coming out of last issue, but yeah, apparently no, it's not quite.
Right. I like that. That was a nice twist.
Yeah. So, and like you said, yeah, Ewing is definitely playing into a lot of Hulk lore fiction.
He's digging.
Man, oh man! Especially what we come to find out at the end of this issue. So most of this issue was being told by a character that is presumed dead. That
we all kind of know isn't.
That we now know isn't correct. And who is also a fixture, one would say the cause of, one thought to be the cause of the Hulk being the Hulk. But as we have known from the beginning of the beginning of the Immortal Hulk, that's not necessarily the case. But he was there at the beginning of it, and you already know who I'm talking about if you've been around for a certain length of time. Again, he doesn't show up. This person doesn't show up in the issue yet. Well, he doesn't show up. Let me phrase that. He doesn't show up alive. Because there's So while they're messing around Shadow Base, we see them messing with a body, which we can only assume that is the body of one. We'll go ahead and say it. Spoiler bell's already been wrong. Rick Jones, who died in Secret Empire, who's also at one point the gamma irradiated creature called A-Bomb.
That's right.
And knowing that every gamma irradiated person that has been around has got some, doesn't seem to have any problems not living, even after death actually happens, then yeah, you can kind of put two and two together on that one. Which in the course of this story, Bushwhacker does have his day, and again, Hulk's weakness gets exploited again, which leads to something happening with not only him, but one Doc Samson,
right?
which I'm assuming they're gonna do something with that next issue or sometime soon, because since he is also a gamma irradiate person,
right,
just got dealt with in a certain way in this issue.
Sure.
I guess it was his turn to get the strap. I don't know.
Yep.
So, but anyway, like I said, this all leads to the fact that
another character
from the Hulk lore shows up. One that it's
another personality, even.
Well, yes, definitely. Apparently, in non-Hulk form, this character is actually coming out. I'm curious. I am waiting to see how they explain that one.
It's weird. It's weird. The personality would emerge, right? The personality would emerge without the concurrent transformation.
Right, but I think I have seen something in the letters page of this issue talking about Banner being diagnosed with DID, so that's probably going to be how they explain some of that, or how they have explained some of that, including the Hulk persona that we have now. Anyway, that is Immortal Hulk number 16. Oh, there was even a Batman reference. I totally forgot about that. It was like Hulk makes a reference like, "Oh yeah, I know, I've seen the movies. The bat always wins."
Oh yeah, that was funny. That was definitely good.
Yeah, that was well played. Nice played. So yeah, this is a continue on, and apparently Ewing's got some plans for this book going forward, according to the letters played, and hopefully he gets to bear that out. Yeah. He's gotten past 12 issues, so
what I was gonna say, it's kind of cool that this is a love letter to the history of the Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten to see a lot of different things, and obviously we've seen the horror aspects, and that's and that's obviously helped out by the art. Joe Bennett continues with the creepiest renditions of the transformation that you're going to see, and and a lot of the layouts and the coloring. Shout out to Paul Mount in this. He's a old school Marvel color, old school comics colorist, and he's doing bang up work on this. Creating a mood. So along with Joe Bennett, and this is some serious horror style, not necessarily horror comics, but horror style comics that are a love letter to the history of the Hulk.
And of course, with the touch of the old 70s show, the old 70s live action TV show, with one character that is,
with the reporter character who's on the story all the time.
Yes. So what we're basically saying, you should read Immortal Hulk. It's pretty good.
Yes, it's worth it.
Moving right along. Let's see. Is that the last one? Oh. One more we got similar. And I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have a new number one this week. And I think this is going to be an appropriate time to put this.
Classic Team-Up!
Shout out to Classic Materia for that. But the book,
and I was about to say, in true classic fashion, in true Cold Slither podcast tradition, let's do the universal greeting. Shout out to our man, our former captain, our former leader, Classic Materia. Ba weep, grana weep, ninny bong.
Yes, you heard me allude to it earlier at the beginning of the show. And yes, that is definitely that. If you're new to this, the Classic Material was the CEO head person over the CSPN network, podcast network. We owe him a lot, I would dare say.
Yes.
He has actually been on the show. Actually, in the early days of Comic Book Chronicles, he was on the show a couple of times.
Yes.
A few times. I was not on the show at the time, but I do know as a fan that he was. And that was he used the Transformers Universal Greeting in his show Classic Team Up, which that's taking too long to explain that enough. Nevertheless, hey, it's a piece of history, folks, and we love it. Getting into the book that we're going to talk about now, Marvel Team Up, number 1.
Right. It's a relaunch of a long-standing series that generally involved Spider-Man teaming up with the hero of the month.
Mm-hmm. And this one seems to be no exception. although we don't know going past this first arc if it's going to stay that way or if it's going to go where we're speculating it might go, and they use a new hero, which would be interesting if they did.
Sure.
Anyway, so here we go with a team up with Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and one Miss Marvel. And the story is done. At first, I was like, "What in the world is going on here?" Because from the first page, the title page, we get a
physical copy of this.
No, I did not.
Okay, I haven't picked up my physical copy yet either. But my understanding through the is it e-viewing?
Yes.
Right. My understanding through, I believe e-viewing tweeted or Instagrammed out something about this book where you can read it from either end.
That's true.
Like if you pick it up from the back cover or the front cover, you can read the story.
And they do like that.
Right, and I think that's where the disconnect comes in, because what Roddykat is referring to is how we were reading our review copies, which kind of don't, obviously because they're not physical, don't exactly lend themselves to that particular dynamic. So we're reading it like, why is this happening this way? But if we had physical copies in hand, we'd understand that this team up story is being told from two separate perspectives, and literally you can read one perspective or the other and get the entire story by choosing which side of the book to start from, the front or the back.
Right. But if you do that, there would be some things that would be missed out from one issue, from one part or the other.
Right. I mean, they don't want you to read just one.
Well, yeah, that is absolutely true. Because but the reason why I'm saying that is because like you read if you're reading digitally like we were doing, and you get it, from the side that they start off with, which is kind of it's actually kind of fun, but it's actually kind of weird because like if you read it like that, it's like, well, wait, what happened to where this person comes in, just all out of the blue, and then you keep on reading. It's like, oh, okay. You keep reading past that into the other side of the story. It's like, okay, that's where it's. So there's some things that you kind of miss, and there's some points that were made in one part of the story or the other that you miss if you only read just one part, which obviously, as I said, don't want you to do. And you probably wouldn't do because you'd be kind of lost.
Right, and you'd be like, "Why am I reading half a comic I paid a full price for?" So
I literally said to myself, when I got to a certain point, it's like, wait, where's the other side of the story that they're alluding to? And then I kept reading, and I was like, oh,
right.
But again, like someone said, the benefit of a physical copy would make that a lot more clearer. So that had nothing to do with the book itself, just the digital copies.
Right. So ultimately, what we've got is, and I needed Roddykat's pop culture knowledge for me to jog the old file cabinet of a brain to remember the Freaky Friday reference. That's what we have. It's a Freaky Friday pairing.
Yes.
In this story,
told from two different sides.
Right.
Which is actually also kind of amusing because if you don't really think about it at first, unless you were like, me and just kind of reading into it, because you see the title page and it says like it goes through Miss Marvel's backstory, but then you see Spider-Man and it goes through his part of the story.
Right.
So it's like, wait, huh? What's how? Okay, sure, that's the thing. But if you read the other side, you get the other side of that, which is why the physical copies kind of work better for this, because you can see what they were kind of going with. But it plays out if you read the whole digital thing digitally, but you just
yeah, it's not immediately. Yeah, it's not as immediately evident. That's right. The difference.
So but anything else to add? So what?
Anything else to add?
No, not much. Just that, like you said, it's a Freaky Friday thing, and it meets in the middle to where, spoiler alerts. Hey, guess what? Spider-Man and Miss Marvel swap bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only other thing I would say about this is like, man, I kind of wish this was Miles and
no.
Miss
No,
Marvel.
there's a reason. No, there's a reason why it's Peter.
Oh, I know.
It's because of the age difference.
It's the Freaky Friday aspect of it.
Yep.
So yeah, I get that, but like I said, I just going into this not knowing that was the case. This is why I would have wanted it for
they
that.
Team up all the time in Champions, or at least they did.
This is kind of true, but at the same time, like or hey, if Marvel teamed up, even being say Miles time, be the one starting the book, and that doesn't matter because that's just me thinking out loud, and it doesn't really matter. But nevertheless, so we get a nice little fun, and I think this is going to be I know this is going to be like at least 2 or 3 issues of this first arc,
right?
It goes past that.
Right. Old school Marvel team up was often one and done,
right?
But there were times that they did do multiple story arcs, generally fewer than 3 issues. So my guess is that this is going to be kind of like a Brave and the Bold, like that's even how they did the Brave and the Bold when they relaunched that,
Sure.
So they did it with like 2 or 3 issue stories, being churned out. So.
Right. And Eve Ewing is the one just doing this arc, this story, and she, as far as we know, is probably not going to be doing the whole thing going forward.
Right.
But again, like I said, we got this arc right now, just roll with it. So that is that. It was an interesting read, and like I said, once you figure out that what it is, it's like, okay, sure. And realistically though, when you start reading that, you kind of see, especially if you've seen, Freaky Friday or a movie like that, you kind of know where it was going.
Right.
So it kind of telegraphs itself just a little bit in that respect, but
right. But you have to have that reference. If you don't have that reference point, then Right. But once you see that the Jackal's involved and talking about
so I wish you had mentioned that, because that brings up something else that was kind of interesting in this one. So Peter, the reason why Peter was in this in the first place is because he's doing this. A friend of his who apparently went to both Miss Marvel school and went to ESU with him, came up with this revolutionary tech that maps the brain and basically, as he says it, you can download your brain to the cloud, but it basically maps the brain like very quickly and correctly, which is why the Jackal's in it. He wants it. But it also was like, why is Peter so surprised by this when Doc Ock kind of sort of did something similar? And not only that, but Peter's also had a deal with Joe. Okay, Doc Ock didn't exactly do this, but
exactly. I would say it's not exactly, but it's similar.
But it's kind of similar. That's why I was like, wait, that this kind of happened. Like, yeah, you happy for a friend. I get that part, but it's like, well, there's that. And then in the beginning of the book, he's talking about, what? Don't you wish you could be a kid again? This and that. I was like, have a do-over. I'm like, Peter, you've had a do-over. as we've kind of just mentioned in Champions, Brand New Day was his do-over. So, but anyway, that was just me in that thing. So,
well, that wasn't a do-over going way, way back. So.
Well, yeah, but it was a kind of a do-over for
no, I know
point in his life. So yeah, I was like, you know how that plays out. So, but again, for the reasons of the story, it had to play out like this. So it wasn't a big thing. It was just a thing that was noticed. All right, so that is that, and I think after this we can go into rapid fire.
Rapid fire. Let's spin it up, people.
And to go rapid.
All right, so let me take this one. First book is Amazing Spider-Man number 18.hu. My notes on this, you really do have to read it. Really? Did I actually find myself caring about the Gibbon? Yep.
I was legit wanting to see how they were going to pull that off, and from your note, it sounds like it was decent. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, so
sure. So next up is Captain America number 9. This is the next chapter of the story of Cap behind bars at the Myrmidon, which is like the vault on steroids. it's shaping up to be a good story about perceptions and reality, because it's not just about the scheme isn't necessarily about ruining the world, but it's definitely much more about creating perceptions and trying to alter reality by changing what people perceive, what the public perceives. So it's an interesting way for the story to proceed. Major X #1 is another #1 book this week that I know Tim Dog 98 did not like. I'm not a big fan of it. It's just a bit on the silly side. It was weird. I'm not going to spoil it. Listen, for those people who are going to buy books for like first appearances of characters and whatnot, people are going to do that. You never know. But ultimately, it's not fun. Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider #7. This is such a great book. People need to read this book. It's so much fun. Sean, what's her name? Her name sometimes slips my mind because it's
Shannon McGuire, I think.
Yeah, Shannon McGuire, I think it is, right. I was about to say I don't want to make her Irish without really being Irish, but yeah, I think it is Shannon McGuire. But the art by Tak Miyazawa, thank you, Tak Miyazawa, for being what seems like the artist on this, arc of the book. Let's hope that you can stick on this. It makes the book really fun to read. There's a couple of moments that are kind of head scratching, but it's still a lot of fun. Definitely worth picking up. And last up for my rapid fire books is Uncanny X-Men #15. Matt Rosenberg continues to do great work making this feel like the X-Men of the 80s and 90s. I know at Matt Wang 97 and I talked about how this definitely feels like a throwback X-Men book where the X-Men are underdogs and fighting against a pretty Sisyphean battle. They're pushing that rock up and constantly having it fall back down. One of the weird things, there's a significant development with Cyclops in this that's worth catching up on. But one of the things that I had a little bit of a bump on, I sort of visually bumped on some of Sal LaRocca's normally good artwork. Some of his visual storytelling was a bit off in this issue. I don't know if he was cheating when it came down to trying to create more splash page type stuff or more action oriented layouts, but I felt like I didn't understand how we got from one panel to another a few too many times. But all in all, it's a good read. It's definitely worth catching up on this if you are a fan of the X-Men. It's nice to see them, kind of back in, back in the New York groove in that sense. So, and that's it for me.
Alrighty, then for myself, we have oh shoot. What in the world? What happened?
What happened?
I have no idea. Wait, you said Uncanny?
Yeah, Uncanny X-Men 15. That was the last book I talked about.
Okay. Young Justice #4. So there's, speaking of fourth wall breaks, there seemed like there was one directly off that was seemingly, and then some Bendis happened, and the issue ended. It's kind of a fun book, but that was like, yeah, this Bendis doing something, but it's still cool. Like Connor gets to cut loose, and we still get to find out what how some things go on Gem World and Amethyst's part in it, and how she came into being in this situation where she is in this book, and come up. It's kind of fun. I enjoyed it, but again, Bendis happened, and it was like, Star Wars #64. Leia's plot to overthrow the government of Shotoran is going off seemingly without a hitch, but not really, because that's not how it works for that crew. Because apparently, some folks that got with them want to really upset the system and turn it into Jedha. Which, if you've seen Rogue One and or have been reading the book, you know what happened to Jedha. and is going to monkey up the works even more. So that's the thing that happens. Domino Hot Shots #2. So this is I guess for a little bit of brief backstory. So Domino's crew is being joined by one Black Widow, White Fox, and Arctic Bear, I believe her name was, which that was a character that came out of the Domino book. So they're all teaming up against because they all know about this Kirby-esque behind thing, which was done by the creator. That from the last issue, which was the first issue, almost I thought it was like, wait, did they put Darkseid in this book? Because you even see beams, you even see like the Zeta beams in there. I was like, but it was the decidedly Kirby-ish, which he also did the Celestials, and that's where this tech or whatever it is. It's not necessarily tech, but something that somebody found and it gets absorbed into them. That looks like it's a celestial tech. So a bunch of people are after it, and Domino's crew is trying to destroy it while dealing with some inner turmoil with each other. In this issue, Deadpool comes along because he got hired to get it for seemingly Tony Stark. And then Deadpool, who's been in Domino's book before and friends with Domino and her crew, they have a little scrap, but then it gets dealt with, and they end up fighting apparently the automatons of Tony Stark at the end of this. So we'll see what happens with that. Gelsimon seems to be having some fun with it so far. There's a Grease reference and a Angry Bird reference right off to right one behind the other. So she's having fun, and I enjoy when she does stuff like this. Her Domino book is pretty good. You should check it out. And this seems as fun as that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for me.
Alrighty, so we are getting up to Clicks of the Week.
Yes, and we already have one, I guess 2 clicks a week, because apparently you already know yours. Wait, I thought you said yeah.
No, that is not my click of the week.
Oh, I'm sorry, I put the wrong one. My bad. That was my fault. So, but we do still have 2 clicks a week, but the one we have from one Tim Dog 98 was Justice League number 21.
Right.
And since you already have yours, and I might actually go with you on this one.
Yeah, my click of the week this week is War of the Realms number 1. So awesome. I may myself be digging in for the ponying up for the the director's cut edition 2 based off of what we've seen. So
I think I might do that just on principle, because the stuff that we saw behind the story, like the story is the one thing and it's good, but the everything else that's like is with that director's cut, which is like the script and whatnot, like you said earlier. Good. That's some good stuff. You might want to check it out if you're a fan of the process.
Right. And for those of you who have picked up one of these director's cut editions in the past, like the Vision ones, and there have been director's cut books going back for a number of years now. We're talking, we're going back a while now. They've done some for Avengers, they've done some for other books. I've loved them. You're trying to figure, you're basically trying to judge whether or not it's worth the extra cost. This particular one, though, seems like it's worth it because it's got a lot of extras thrown in there. Plus, I kind of like seeing Aaron's scripting style. It's pretty. It's pretty cool to read the process. To see that process and to see how Dowderman interprets that.
Totally. So sometimes they'll a writer or artist will throw some stuff on Twitter if you're up on it, and you'll see that stuff. But you don't always get to that. Regardless, despite what I said about the, and I'm not making this my pick, but despite what I said about the Bendis that happened in Young Justice was kind of fun. So that is definitely a book you should check out. But I am absolutely going to go along with Agent 70 and go with War of the Realms. Like, I mean, that shouldn't probably have been so surprised since we glowed about it in the beginning of the show. So
that's one of those. No kidding, guys.
Yeah. It was pretty dope. So, I found it magazine too, by the way. That being that, because we did not get one from Dirt. So we'll move on to the news.
Alrighty, so our first ad read of the night before we get to the news. Yeah, before we get to the news, our first ad read of the night is for Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torrontés, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your tastes and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Click Nation's Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off, and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink Wines through CSPN. Do it today.
I should really get into that the box I got from them. But
and we're going to transition into the news.
First story out for cinematic news: Doom Patrol, Flexman Tallow joining DC Universe series. So that character that I know very little about is going to be on the show that I know very little about. I've heard of this character because, in fact, I think I did try to read that last run of Doom Patrol, but again, whatever. So yeah, I don't know if it says if they got a name for whoever it is, but regardless, it doesn't matter. He's a member of the Doom Patrol, and there's a character that's going to be there. Next up, I'm going to fold these next two together, please.
DC Universe's Stargirl was revealed in a first look photo. So in a new photo released by the streaming service, Courtney Whitmore, the actress, stands in her full Stargirl costume. She's got the cosmic staff in her right hand, and you can see the beginnings or the makings of what Stripe, the whatchamacallit, the armored suit that is her partner, stars in Stripe, is going to be
her dad or her stepdad or something.
Stepfather turned sidekick.
Yeah,
it's in the background. You can see the beginnings of what the image would be. But in related news, the start of the release of Stargirl has been pushed back to 2020, presumably to allow for more time to create the series.
Yeah. So. Yeah, well, I was gonna say she's got the look down, or at least they got the look down for her, so that's cool. So, but hey, 2020, you got time. Next up, Emily Beth Rickards announces that she's leaving Arrow just in time for the show to be ending anyway. So yes, Emily Beth Rickards, aka Felicity, you know her, you love her. If you're me, you really like her. Is leaving the show. She went to Instagram, I believe, and put out a little ditty announcing the fact that she's leaving the show to her fans. There's that. Next.
Wonder Woman 1984 CinemaCon footage unleashes the Cheetah and Diana's full powers. So the movie itself has been delayed until 2020, but they were able to reveal footage for the sequel at the CinemaCon presentation that happened this week.
Yep, and I haven't watched that yet, but we'll.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really looked for it, so I'm presuming that it's out there. Someone probably surreptitiously taped it.
Yeah. Speaking of being out there, watch the first trailer for Joaquin Phoenix's Joker movie. Did you see that? Did you watch this?
I did watch this. This is.
Yesterday. Excuse me.
This came out what, yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah.
Right. This was some creepy stuff.
Yeah.
This is not really any Joker interpretation you've seen before. It's definitely going to be a character-driven piece. It's a It's. I wonder if it's a vehicle for like an Oscar nomination, depending on how the movie shakes out.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's definitely feels like if you're judging by the trailer, seemed like I dare say they're trying to make Joker a sympathetic character, and I don't.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying it just seems that way.
I doubt it. It's gonna, you know what? This is the origin story you never really wanted, and
true.
And what I was going to say is this is also, in my mind, this is one of those one-shot comics that is semi-canon. If you think about it from the comic book reader's perspective, where this is like a passion project that one creator, a set of creators does, that doesn't necessarily impact upon the greater narrative.
You could do it, yeah.
So that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, I don't know. October 4th. I don't know if you're aiming to go see it. I should also say that hey, tonight is the night that Shazam started. And obviously, since we're doing the show, we're not there.
Yes,
but we'll report back on that when we have seen.
Yeah, we're probably gonna eventually kind of all filter out and see it over the next week or two, and we'll have thoughts on it more likely than not before we take a break for Endgame.
Yeah. Although I might see it before Endgame. Anyway, that's what I'm
saying. More likely before we get to Endgame. Yeah.
Sure. Ezra Miller reportedly done with The Flash. WB will recast the role. This is still a rumor, so I should point that out right off the bat. So we kind of talked about this, that Ezra Miller, who plays the Flash in Justice League, was trying to get a script together because there seemed to be some holdups with the Flash movie. Well, I guess what we come to find out is that he was doing that because he was not happy with the treatment they were giving the Flash, and in its tone, aka being a little bit lighter. I dare say probably in line with the Flash. It was Shazam. I don't know, but so he went off to recruit Grant Morrison to get a script. Which doesn't sound like was, that they went with, or they went for, or whatever the case may be. If this rumor is to be true, and that Ezra Miller might be out as the Flash, if that is the case.
Okay, well, that movie's in development hell, so it's tough to know what to say anything about it at this point.
Right. Again, like I said, I'll emphasize this is real. So,
but even with that, even knowing that it's a rumor, there's only so much you can think. There's only so much thought you can put into it, knowing that they're
where there's smoke, there is fire. But
they are deep in development hell. So, next up, the Suicide Squad movie. Jai Courtney is returning as Captain Boomerang. So they're bringing one of the more truer interpretations of the characters back from the first version.
Sure. Okay, great. The Robot Chicken team has some fun with Shazam in a series of comedy sketches. I did not know Robot Chicken was still a thing.
Guess so.
So yeah, but you can check it out in the video that is attached to that, or seek it out. So it's Robot Chicken being Robot Chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Shazam.
Yeah, next up, Mark Strong says he turned down the role of Sebastian Shaw in the X-Men First Class movie. That was the role that eventually went to Kevin Bacon and connected all of these Fox X-Men people to a degree of Kevin Bacon.
Nice. Yes, and now Mark Strong is a name you may or may not know about. You've seen him in he's playing in the Shazam movies, Dr. Savannah. He's been in the Kingsman movies. He's played villains and other roles. You've seen him and known him. He's a pretty good actor. So I would be curious as to how he would have done Sebastian Shaw. That said, moving right along. Oh. Avengers Endgame appears to be Stan Lee's final cameo. Now, I could have sworn that that's not true, but or we have seen something that said that's not true. But according to this article, it seemed like Endgame may possibly be Stan Lee's last cameo.
Right. My understanding was that it was probably going to be Far From Home. because
Exactly.
that's what that was kind of like the last Marvel movie that was in post-production when he was still alive.
Right. I believe that was the last one we know that he did, or that it's felt that we knew that he did.
Right. So that, this could be right. We're not sure yet, but there's actually a side note to all this. It's interesting to think about how, even though we sort of know what the release schedule is, the future of the MCU is definitely still up in the air until we all see Endgame. So we're really not sure what's coming next, even though we have an idea because of the release schedule, that's been put out. We still don't really know what's next. So, and
going back to Stanley, we feel like there was some stuff that had been front loaded before this, and because we kind of don't know how far it went, but whether this was the one or Far From Home.
Right.
Next up.
Right. All new, all different Avengers assemble in Endgame. Special look as tickets go on sale. So tickets went on sale, people.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I was about to say you could take the. I'll keep the sales stories separate, and I'll just talk about the trailer that dropped, the special look from Marvel Studios that was published as a part of publicizing the opportunity to buy tickets for Endgame. And it was, we didn't see too much more, but we did see a little bit more, and it was obviously enough to
oh wait, you watched this?
Of course.
Oh, I thought you said you were on blackout after the last one.
Because it's not a trailer.
Okay.
I
didn't look at it.
I watched it. They didn't show us too much more.
Okay. Cool. But yeah, tickets went on sale. 870, you got yours?
Yep.
I got mine.
Actually, yeah, there's a funny story behind it. It's not worth telling now, but I'm pretty much assured of a ticket somewhere.
Given what you told me about it, I got you. But yeah,
somewhere. I'm not sure. I can't even tell you what theater I'm going to be at and what time at this point. So
must be nice to have those problems.
Yeah. Believe me, there's people out there that are just like, I couldn't get mine when I wanted to watch it, blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay,
yes, which and actually speaking of, it goes well. Speaking of that, and going into the next story,
sure.
Fandango says Avengers Endgame broke Star Wars first day record sales in 6 hours. And
that's it.
So yeah, when the news came out it was a couple of days ago. Sorry. When this news came out a few days ago, at the time of this recording, which was the second. Well, we're recording this on the 4th, and this news came out on the 2nd. I don't know why I need to say that. Regardless, it sold out quick. Fandango was kind of swamped. AMC was swamped and having issues. We know people like Tim Dog 98 who had some trouble. I don't know if he actually did get his tickets or not.
I think he did.
So here's the funny thing about that, and I didn't mention this in our back channel when he said that he couldn't get through the Fandango. I had just finished and I said I got mine was through Fandango and was fairly quick. Even though I did see that same message, the message came up and said, "Hey, you're queued up for X amount of hour or whatever," and then a minute later.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny about that is, and without going, diving all the way into how Fandango works, especially because it's not, they work with not just AMC theaters, like obviously the AMC app is just for AMC theaters, and I think the Atom app is similar to Fandango, where they go across different movie theater chains who supply tickets and offer online purchasing.
Mm-hmm.
It all sort of depends, I think, based on where you're looking.
It actually, that is in fact true, because this article also mentions that, and I believe Fandango at some point has mentioned that as also, because I wasn't getting that issue. I don't think you got the issue. Tim, who's not terribly that far away from him, but he's far enough away to where whatever. So yeah, it's definitely locational, and speak for what I've seen from people varying degrees of whether they got it or not has been in different locations. So that is definitely the case.
It probably depends on how many theaters you're choosing from or which theaters you're trying to choose from. If you're like I've joked about it before many times on the show about the one true IMAX theater in New York City. That's going to be the ticket that's going to be impossible to get for opening night.
I would imagine in Alamo also, if you're in certain places.
Right. If you want to sit in, right, exactly. If you want to sit and eat, but in terms of especially if you can handle IMAX and 3D, that's Lincoln Square. That's up by Lincoln Center here in New York City, and that one's gonna be outrageous to try to get. Forget, like if you're not able to click on it right away, it's over. So, but if you're okay watching it at like your local theater that has like a regular 3D showing, great, you'll probably be able to get in.
Or if, like me, you went for the standard seat and you're in a very crappy seat, in fact, the same crappy seat that you were in for Infinity War, which I guess that's fitting. I don't know why, but then you'll take any seat that they're giving to you to keep from having to sit in the middle of people.
Gotcha.
Anyway, enough about that. That's the thing. If you gotten your tickets, hopefully you will, and if you are so inclined. But
I was about to say some people avoid. Yeah, I was about to say some people avoid middle. I dive into middle. But
I mean, that is kind of the. I mean, as far as a movie-going experience, that is kind of the best seat you want,
right?
But Anyway,
some people don't, especially if either you're too tall or not tall enough.
Although, if you are in movie theaters and more of them are having more often than not have more leg room and have reclining seats, that's not as big of a problem.
Right. It all depends on the theater that you're going to. So
yes, but anyway, that is another topic for that's a topic for another time.
Well, speaking of money.
Yep.
Captain Marvel officially passes the 1 billion mark in global sales.
You got to put your finger up.
Yeah, that's right. 1 billion.
Yes. So congrats to Brie Larson, Lashana Lynch, Samuel Jackson, and crew, and everybody else involved with that movie. It was good. I've known people who've seen it upwards of 3 times, and I was like, I don't think I've done that for one Marvel movie. Even the ones that I said I would have gone to or over again. Like
I saw the first Avengers 3 times because multiple people asked me to take them.
Sure. Again, must be nice to have those problems.
The first Avengers is the one I saw 3 times in the theater because multiple people asked me to take them to go see it. It hasn't really happened recently. I've been more than happy waiting for Blu-ray to do my multiple watches.
Some
released 2 times.
Right. Some releases have been close enough to be like, I can wait.
Yeah. At most, it's been 2 times. Like, I haven't had anyone ask me to take them to Captain Marvel yet, but there's still maybe a couple people that haven't seen it yet that would want me to come with them. So,
like Spider-Verse, I would have done it with, but like I said, it wasn't possible. Endgame. As a matter of fact, I think I said that during Infinity War because of my seat that I would go back and see it again, and that didn't happen. So, yeah.
I ended up watching it on Netflix or at home on video. So.
Yeah. So, anyway, so congrats to that. Oh, come on, stop. But if you wanted to, speaking of the Marvel movies, if you wanted to watch all 21 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies trailers in order, you can do so because somebody stitched together all of them. So if you have a good, 50 minutes and 45 seconds.
Wow.
You can. I'm going to take the next one while we're at it. But if you got that length of time, you can go ahead and do that. Or if your constitution is hardy enough, and you can sit through a 59-hour marathon, AMC has got your back because AMC Theaters announces a 59-hour Marvel movie marathon.
Wow.
That is all of the movies up to and including Endgame, which every time they have is always it's funny because every time they've been having these marathons, it seems to grow exponentially bigger. It's like what because they got like what it's like it's been like 2 movies a year for the past 10 years or something.
Right.
So,
there was a time when you'd have movie marathons. You'd be there for like 6 or 7 hours. No, we're talking multiple days at this point.
Right.
And that's a tribute to that is a testament to what Marvel Studios has been able to accomplish in 11 years.
There has been, as a matter of fact, I don't know the legitimacy of this, but I saw an article, and I think we may or may not have talked about it, about somebody was paying $1,000 to sit through all of the film.
Oh yes, yeah. I thought about it. I was like,
I thought about it too because I can use that money.
Yeah, $1,000. Who can't use that, right?
Right. But I didn't follow up.
I'm like, what I was gonna say is that's worth taking those days off.
And yeah, and I've seen some people who's like, "Are you crazy? I wouldn't do that." I'm like,
have you looked at what you get paid over 2.5 days?
Let me rephrase that. They said that that's not enough money to do that, and I'm saying like you would be watching these movies anyway for free, marathon hours. You might not be in the length of time they want you to do it, but you would be doing it for free. So I mean, whatever.
It's like unless you're, I was about to say unless you're making a pretty good salary or whatnot, $1,000 for 2.5 days work is pretty good.
That's $1,000
watching movies. You're not even using your brain to generate like billable hours,
right? And I don't even know if there was anything else outside of just watching the movies that they wanted you for. Because it seemed like that would be something that they would ask for something extra for, but I don't know.
No, I think it's just a contest that you have to like write in and say why you're the person to do it.
Sure. But regardless,
and I definitely just admitted that I looked deeper into this than people.
I'm not mad at you at all. But moving right along. So
next up,
that is the thing you could do if you really wanted to.
Next up, seriously, Kevin Feige talked about Ms. Marvel, the Quantum Realm, Young Avengers, and the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in a chat with the website Screen Rant. Hinting at a variety of these future projects, and he talked about the potential Young Avengers spin-off, the Eternals as a document of MCU history, and even Ms. Marvel. I'm not gonna get too into this stuff.
There's even a mention of a character in Captain Marvel that a lot of people would love to see be in a movie, much less have their own.
Yeah.
Doesn't take much to find out who that person is outside of Kamala Khan.
Right.
But anyway, that is a thing, and we'll see what we'll be going for. This is all like Feige talking at this point, so none of this has actually come to bear. I didn't put that one in there, but anyway, next up, there's a rumor that Marvel Studios is looking to use Deathlok, which had me thinking, well, like, wait, they did this in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. like seasons ago, so what are they talking about? They're talking about movie-wise. Which you know what? And luckily, this article mentions the fact that it was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but it's a rumor. There's not really much else to go on outside of that. They're thinking about it, and I'm like, sure, okay, I guess.
And ultimately, there have been multiple versions of Deathlok as well. So,
right.
I know that I believe the actor who portrayed Deathlok on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was trying to start up a social media campaign to campaign for being cast as this Deathlok. But anyone that's read any comics involving Deathlok knows there are multiple versions of that character.
And J. August Richards, who most people know from the Buffy franchise, or from the Buffy franchise being an angel, I should say.
Okay.
He's likable. Yeah, sure. Wouldn't mind saying. But and again, this is a rumor. They said they want to use him, not necessarily as a
starring vehicle.
You're right. Or it could be in somebody else's movie.
Right.
the speculation. So I don't know. Next up, Star Wars. Yeah.
Oh,
I got it. A long lost star. A long lost star joins Celebration, and Star Wars gets political. So basically,
yeah, I was gonna say you take this one.
So Kerry Russell, who's going to be in Star Wars Episode 9, apparently is going to be at Star Wars Celebration. She was on Stephen Colbert talking about it, but she really couldn't say much, or did say much outside of she has a cool costume. The other side of that is that Hayden Christensen, yes, Anakin Skywalker, who is going to be at Celebration after a long time away from it. So Anakin comes to Celebration. I'm sure there's going to be some folks happy about there. So I was about to say, wait, did you jump? Was Jumper him, or was that Chris Evans? I think. Anyway, I was going to try to make a Jumper reference, or because I know he and like Chris Evans did other science fiction type movies. Neither here nor there. Star Wars is also getting into the audio novel game. By the way, is also a part of this, and there's going to be an audio drama which features Asajj Ventress, who's a fan favorite character from the Clone Wars. And Agent 70, since you have now gone through the Clone Wars, you know who that is.
Yeah.
Yes. So that'll be something, and I think it looks like it's surrounding Count Dooku's history. Okay. And then there's some other stuff that's here. Apparently, there's a Colbert rant that Colbert goes through, and that's Star Wars related. We don't have to go through it. Next up, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power go to war in the season 2 trailer. Did you watch the first season?
No, I haven't yet. This is the Netflix show, right?
It is correct. So yeah, it got a second season.
Nice. So the first trailer for She-Ra and the Princesses of Power season 2 is here. The trailer was shown at WonderCon this past weekend and appeared online and reveals the various princesses of Etheria working together to defeat the evil Hordak. I've got the theme song in my head, folks.
I am so glad because I was right there with you too. Because I was like, if he's not going to do it, I was going to do it. The evil forces of Hordak. Yeah,
and the video also teases a showdown between Adora and Catra, her former best friend. Wow, apparently.
Because they play that up in this version of it.
Yep.
So cool. And now, news that sent thousands of panties dropping in wet. That's probably something I probably shouldn't have said. Regardless, John Cho headlines Netflix's Cowboy Bebop, because anytime you mention John Cho, panties hit the floor. Twitter was all lit this afternoon because this news came out today about this news, and yes, there were no shortage of people up and down about it. So, if you don't know Cowboy Bebop, which if I'm not mistaken, Agent 7, you have not seen.
I am not up to date with.
Well, good. That means you can go and check it out, and where it is. It's a cool. It's kind of weird in spots, but it's cool. It is a classic anime for reasons.
Okay.
So yes, John Cho, not unsurprisingly, will be playing Spike Spiegel, who was voiced by the one and only Steve Bloom. The voice In fact, if you know him as Zeb in Rebels, and I say that for Agent of 70's benefit since he's just from Rebels, but myriad of other animes and other shows he's done. Anyway, and they also have the casting of Jet, who is Mustafa Shakir playing him. Faye Valentine also has her actress in Daniela Pineda. Let's see, rounding out the cast is Suburbicon's Alex Hassel as Vicious. Who, if you know Cowboy Bebop, you know what that's going to be about. One notable thing that was missing, and shout out to Eve Ewing, who had the exact same question I did earlier. And who's playing Ed? I want to know who's playing Ed, but that's I think obviously Ein is a dog, and you don't know this yet, but Ein is a dog, so they're pretty sure there's no shortage of corgis they can get. But I'm sure they'll find it out. But I want to know who's playing Ed. That's it. Enough said. Moving on.
Okay.
When you watch, it'll all become clear when you watch the show.
It's funny, yeah. And Hayden Christensen was in Jumper.
Okay, yeah, that's wow. I'm sad that I remember that. Anyway,
the Umbrella Academy season 2 has been announced by Netflix, so it's been officially renewed for a second season. The main cast is set to return from season 1, including Ellen Page, Tom Hopper, David Castaneda, Emmy Raver Lampman, Robert Sheehan, Aidan Gallagher, and Justin Min. Casting beyond the members of the Umbrella Academy will be announced at a later date. Pretty cool.
Yep. So congrats to Umbrella Academy. HBO developing Niobe as a TV series. I feel like we've had this article before. I don't know why, but regardless, Stranger Comics' Niobe is going to be a live action comic show that is Amanla Stenberg's co-creation, along with Sebastian Jones and artist Ashley Woods, which follows a titular black, half-human, half-elf who tries to understand her true heritage ahead of a looming threat from an even older evil force. We have no timetable as to when this is going to happen, though.
Okay.
And now we move on to the comic book news.
All right. So first up in comic book news.
Oh, weird.
I scroll. Spoiler alert. Superman has a new secret identity.
Wait.
But how? And why?
Hold up. Did you or did I?
You skipped one.
Oh, I didn't skip. I just didn't. Dang it. I missed that one.
That's okay.
Oh, no, I didn't. Did I put the wrong link in?
Yeah, you put the wrong one.
Son of a biscuit. Anyway.
That's all right. Well, we all know Superman's alter ego, Clark Kent. And now in issue 1009, a new secret identity was introduced.
You know what? See that this is why you have good notes, folks. And thanks to G-Docs to being able to change that on the fly. So next up, apparently he's gonna get a new secret identity, and glasses probably ain't gonna cut it. Who knows? I'm not reading yet. Next up, Kevin Smith, Jim Lee revealed the secret origin of Batman's bat symbol. So this is from last week's Detective Comics 1000, which you said you read, I believe.
I did read it, and I actually eventually picked up the midnight release edition, actually, from my local comic shop.
Well, aren't you a midnight marauder?
No, I didn't go on midnight. I didn't go at midnight. I just picked it up. They happened to have an extra one.
It's okay. It was a joke.
Well, listen, because you know what it is. Those midnight releases, depending on how popular they are, that this one apparently was pretty popular because I saw some social media pictures. There was plenty of people there at midnight for the release of this book.
Of course, because eBay's got to be fed.
Yeah.
So apparently, there's a story behind the famous symbol that we won't go into now, but hey, if you haven't read it, then go for it. I don't know why I did that one, but apparently there's a story that I picked off of that page that's talking about something that should have been discussed a long time ago. I'm not doing that one. We're moving past that.
What?
No, don't worry about it. Okay. Detective, if you've watched the video, you've seen what I'm talking about. It'll be in the clickbait section.
Okay.
Detective Comics gets new Batman-centric logo. Speaking of logos, this looks like the Batman Brave and the Bold logo for some reason.
It does.
The Batman Detective Comics is going to be basically looks like, if you're watching the video, you see what it looks like, so I don't have to describe it. But it's the Batman symbol. Actually, wait, it's like kind of like 66 Batman's symbol also, but it just says Batman Detective Comics in lettering. So that's not. Guess hey, 1000, you got to switch it up or something. Next up,
Snagglepuss Chronicles wins the 2019 GLAAD Media Award. So this is the comic from DC and Hanna-Barbera's crossover.
Yeah, sure, something like that. It's basically, yeah, this is it's a miniseries based off of like, well, there was no actual crossover, but it's basically when they put the Hanna-Barbera characters in the world of DC, made them quote unquote real. Something
Okay.
like that. But this was
in the vein of Elmer Fudd.
Not quite,
no?
But yes.
Okay.
This is basically without the mashup between the two characters. This is
okay.
in the world, but they did a lot of remakes of characters, which include those mashups of what if this was the DC version of these Hanna-Barbera cartoons? What would they be like in the world of DC? And that's kind of what you got here. And this was written by this was wow, why am I blanking on this dude's name? Because we just talked about him not too long ago. Mark Russell. He wrote the book.
Okay.
I can't remember who the artist was. Looks like Ben Caldwell might have been doing the cover or the art for it. But anyway, regardless, congrats to them. And there was a bunch of other people in the category that he won in, including one T. Franklin, whose bookload did not win, but was nominated. And a bunch of other books. So moving right along. This is me. Humphreys and Quinones's Dial H for Hero calls out heroes new and old, and this is just basically an interview with Sam Humphreys and Joe Quinones, which I thought was like, is this his son or this just I have never seen this full name out like that before.
What's that?
Joe Quinones.
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, so there was an article between them and what their plans are for the Age book, which we talked about last week. Next up,
take a dip into DC Inc.'s Mira, Tidebreaker, original graphic novel, written by
Danielle Page.
Danielle Page, who is a
friend of the show.
Exactly. I was about to say I was going to use a Kevin Bacon reference, who is not very many degrees of separation away. So we'll see if we can utilize that and have her on the show soon. She is on tour right now promoting this book.
Yeah, and matter of fact, yeah, it just came out this week, which you can get. Actually, I don't think we have a review copy of it, but I might see if we can find a copy and check it out.
Right. She made a number of appearances at New York bookstores and Midtown Comics shops, so wasn't able to get out to those, but I know that believe she's in Ohio today, so definitely doing the tour.
Yeah, I saw some tweet from her earlier. And shout out to Matt Wang, who's the friend that we were talking about, who seems to know everybody, and who's been trying to get us to get her on this. Get us on
and it's more, and we don't mean anything. We don't mean any offense. Obviously, we've been actually just been tied up with our own things.
Exactly,
and trying to get and trying to confirm a guest is tough when there's weeks we're not sure when we're going to be taping because the movies are hitting fast and furious.
Well, not only that, and since she's on tour right now doing her thing, her availability is may not is kind of in question, being that she's doing her thing. So
ultimately, we're going to be working behind the scenes on this. So more in the future.
Yes, indeed. So hopefully we can get that done soon. Next up, DC Comics Ultimate Character Guide has a new edition that is actually out. So this is, I want to say, not necessarily unlike the Marvel handbook, but this at least seems more towards according
to one of those hardcover books.
Yes.
How are they going to cover all the characters? I guess it's just
this is. I don't think this is strictly like the Marvel handbook, but this is more like an encyclopedia.
Oh, okay.
From the looks of it.
Those DK books. Okay.
Yeah. So that is a book that you can get at this moment if you want that. Next up.
Alrighty.
Penguin and Random House. That must have. Anyway, that's don't worry about that. Next up,
Roy Thomas looks back at his at the amazing Spider-Man comic strip coming to an end of a 42-year run. So he spoke to Siffy Wire, and Roy Thomas talked about his almost 20-year run ghostwriting the Amazing Spider-Man newspaper comic strip.
Yeah. So yeah, you should check that out. We talked about the strip in the previous last couple of weeks, so you can run back and get a little bit on that. Still haven't found, and I did find that there are collections of the strips in book form that you can go out and get. Next up, Captain Marvel: What Makes a Hero is another young, I guess it was all ages book that introduces young readers in your life to the inimitable, expectation-destroying, glass-ceiling, shattering, world-saving female superheroes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, from Captain Marvel and Shuri to Gamora, Black Widow, Nebula, and more, in this beautifully illustrated picture book aimed at young readers. So cool. So yeah, you got a young reader who's interested in these characters they see on the screen. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That book is actually out. I'm not seeing it. Yeah, it's out already. By Disney Books. So next up.
All right. So the upcoming issues of Captain America, we just got issue number 9 this week. But issues numbers 10, 11, and 12 have each been pushed back a bit. So the next issue 10 is going to be pushed back 2 weeks to May 8th, which isn't terrible. But 11 has been pushed back 6 weeks to June 19. Again, not terrible. And 12 has been pushed back 2 weeks to July 13th. So we're still getting them monthly.
And we're still getting them this year.
You know that's where I was going.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly where I was going. So that's not that bad. And you know what's funny is that if we were not attentive to comic book news in the way we are, none of us would be all that surprised by this. We would
probably wouldn't even notice. Yeah.
Exactly. We would just be like, oh, I guess Cap didn't come out this week. I guess it's coming out next week. I guess there's a small delay. It's one of those things that you just sort of take into account when you're a collector of comic books.
Right. Yeah, like I've been in the comic book shops and have people questioning stuff and that happens. So it's what is being cited for the move? Actually,
they don't say.
Okay, so yeah,
they don't say. But minor-ish delays like this don't mean too much.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's probably because of War of the Realm and maybe the artist is doing something on it. I feel like that War of the Realm is kind of conflicting with a lot of books. So
maybe not conflicting, but definitely pushing people's schedules around.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So anyway, that is that. It doesn't matter. This is still coming out. History of the Marvel Universe, #1, First Look. So this is the book that we talked about last week that Mark Waid is writing. Apparently, we got a preview of the first issue thanks to Newsarama. Wait, it was not. I thought we did talk about it. We did talk about this. Regardless.
Yeah, we know that. I was about to say we know about it, and it was just announced at C2E2. But it's nice that there's a preview, so I feel like I want to click on this to see what's what.
Yeah, exactly, and that's kind of the reason why I put this in there because I was wanting to check out and see what this was about. So, and
that's a funky cover. That's a funky cover.
Oh yeah, if you're watching the video, you can see the cover.
Wow,
that's a lot. There's a lot going on that one. Wow. It's almost handbook like.
Right. If you go into the pages, though, it's kind of reminiscent of Marvel Saga, but with much less prose text. Sure. Man, I miss Marvel Saga. I love that, man.
I feel like they will, given that it's the anniversary and then all the other stuff they're bringing back out, I feel like they'll probably bring that back out.
I used to love Marvel Saga. I mean, not being able to go back and buy old issues of the FF, that's how I caught up on a lot of the stuff that happened in the the early days.
Yeah, it was a good resource for that kind of stuff for sure. Oh wow, Rama Tech. Oh man, this is some history.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. You can only imagine what the word balloons are actually going to say because this is just preview art.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's that. Be able to check that out when that comes out at some point in the near future. Next up.
All right, so we have a preview of Marvel Action Black Panther #1. So this is an all ages. Yeah, this is an all ages book that's published by IDW, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
wait, no. But I thought is this one? I want to say yes, but it doesn't say. Yes, it does. It is. Sorry.
Yeah, it's published by IDW, right?
Yeah, because they are the one doing those Marvel Action books.
Exactly. So,
and again, that came out this week, and I meant to read it, but I didn't get around to it.
Mm-hmm.
So. But
we have too many events. We have too many events to deal with.
There is that, and those Marvel Action books, they've been coming out fairly frequently. So there's a lot of them we don't get to talk about at all.
Exactly, we're not the target demographic, too. So,
or are we? I mean, it's a book. It's an all ages book, so anybody can get into it. But nevertheless, it obviously kind of sort of geared towards younger readers. But next up.
What's coming to Marvel Unlimited in April 2019? So
a lot of stuff.
Subscribers to the digital service, you're going to get larger runs of Doctor Strange, Machine Man, the 2002 Vision limited series, Spidey 2099, and a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I was about to say, for some reason, I thought I saw Next Wave on that, and I know that was already on there. I'm not so. Yeah. So as we've said before, Marvel Unlimited is like usually 4 or so months by the time. So usually 4 months from when the book comes out, it'll be on there then. Anyway, Hasbro reveals Avengers Endgame products.
Yeah, you know what we were talking about before about not watching trailers. I relented and watched that trailer because I knew we weren't going to see too much more than what we kind of knew was going to happen. I'm just staying away from the toys, to be honest.
I mean, well, the Russos would have you believe that the toys will not give anything away. I think
same as the trailers, right? They say the same things about the trailers, like
yes, but I'm also on the opinion that might be a little misdirection on that part.
Well, no, I think that they're actively constructing footage for the trailers, and we've seen that before. Where I
meant with the toys, though.
Yeah, exactly. Like they can't do that with the toys. That's the difference. So that's why I'm staying away from looking at any of the toys.
But the trailer, there was also a certain amount of misdirection with trailers at a certain point. Has been said by some things that they said that have been hidden in the in-game trailer, but we won't talk about that. Next up,
Mortal Kombat. Co-creator wants to make a Marvel versus DC game. Good luck with that. Ed Boon, co-creator of Mortal Kombat, says he's tried to get a Marvel fighting game made, and he can't discuss the details of his talks.
Not only that,
he let it slip he'd like to make a fighting game that pits DC against Marvel. Good luck with that, dude.
Yeah. Now, obviously, people in the know Ed Boon, Mortal Kombat. He is the dude over Mortal Kombat. Also, Injustice, the fight game since we talked about it before, made that, and Mortal Kombat versus DC was a game that they made, which is actually pretty decent. But I think they made that one before they did Injustice, which is, I think, arguably a better game.
Yes.
This is saying something he would love to do, nothing that's actually happening. I would want this to happen because yes, but like Agent 70 says, good luck in that. That probably will never happen.
Yeah, because then you're actually going to be able to do the who can beat whom. But then you have to argue about who's overpowered, who's underpowered, and
why did they put this character in instead of this character?
Yeah, that's just a headache waiting to happen.
Although they already have a stock on the DC side that they already have, so they probably wouldn't take much to. Regardless, it's all up here. So, secret history of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers to be revealed in July's Go Go Power Rangers.
Okay.
So Go-Go Power Rangers joins the Necessary Evil event this July. Which isn't that a DC? That's
Necessary Evil.
Wait, actually, there was a Necessary Evil, I think. But anyway,
I don't think so. That's actually a new title. But yeah, I think you were right. Forever Evil, I think, was the DC.
Forever Evil was definitely one, but I thought there was a Necessary Evil, or maybe that's the video that I. Anyway, I think there is a video called Necessary Evil that is that I may have access to. That just basically talk about some DC stuff. Anyway, doesn't matter. The event this July, Scenic Grace is doing Go-Go Power Rangers apparently. He of Iceman fame, and I guess that is the event for this year because that Battle of the Grid one kind of was a thing, and that happened, and it went places. So we'll see how this one handles.
All right.
Next up,
go where no girl has gone before in Star Pig.
Although it looks like a tardigrade on the cover, but we don't go to that. So yeah, apparently Star Pig is the story of a lost girl on a giant space tardigrade. There you go. Just trying to get home. No, Star Pig is the actual love song to nostalgia and growing up. And this is being written by Delilah S. Dawson, whom is I believe a best-selling author, and she also writes some comics on this. She has written some comics on the side. Some notable ones, actually, I think. Anyway, more issues of Images Comics Die sell out again. So apparently, issues 2 and 3 are on their third and fourth, or on their fourth and third printings. So I guess, and it sounds like fourth and fifth are looking to do similar. So that must be good for Kieran Gillian and Stephanie Hans, I guess.
Okay, I keep seeing that in our batch of review copies, and I've heard good things about it. I read
that first issue, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. But I didn't follow it up. Yeah. So anyway, I'm sure they're congrats to them folks.
Next up.
Yep.
Get It All in Valiant, the complete digital comic book collection. So this is actually something that's near and dear to my heart because Git Corp, GIT Corp.
Yes, that's a name. I said, yep, that's a name some folks would remember.
Yeah, they're going to release Valiant, the complete digital comic book collection, a library of comics contained on a USB flash drive. So Valiant is excited to announce Valiant, the complete digital collection. The massive library of comics features almost 600 digital comics for just $60. Git Corp is known for their must-have digital collections. I bought a whole bunch of those Git Corp DVDs.
I think I have a couple of them. I know I have I
got almost all of them. The one that I didn't get, I think was Ghost Rider. So yeah. I got Avengers, Spidey, FF, and Silver Surfer. That was combined.
I may have Spidey. I think I have Spidey, but I know I have is it Uncanny X-Men or one of those X-Men runs that did.
Yeah, there's an X-Men one. I'm looking at it right now. There's an X-Men one, a Hulk one, and
I want to say that was the Whedon one.
What's that?
I think that was the Whedon run and a bunch of other stuff.
Oh, they might have. You know what it is? Git Corp also put out smaller editions.
Right.
Like they did a Civil War one, I think.
Probably.
I was independent of the massive ones, but I wasn't interested in getting something so new. I wanted to get the entire library.
Yeah.
And that was some great stuff to get. It's unbelievable having access to that in PDF format. So
basically, if you did not know, so Git Corp, yeah, basically their claim to fame is they put a bunch of comics on a DVD or USB stick, according to this thing. All together, so just whole runs of stuff in with a certain theme or book. Yeah, and I mean it's a pretty decent value if you lay your hands on something, or some would say it's a good value for whole runs of stuff in PDF form.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
which they were the precursors to the digital wave that's going on now.
which is kind of funny that they're still doing this, given the fact that that a lot of this digital not enough. But hey, I'm not gonna knock it.
I mean, for the completists, that's the thing. If there's one thing that we've all critiqued, one criticism that we've all had about these digital platforms is that it doesn't have everything that you want to see. And the way to get everything is to buy it all at once and to have it, locally on your computer.
True.
And there have been there have been times when just for the sake of research, I've pulled up, I've downloaded those PDFs into multiple digital spaces so that I could have access to them, and on my home network, and without having to pop the DVD in. And it's an invaluable tool. I love it.
It is quite easy to do that, and those PDFs, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not saying anything else about this, but the fact that I think those are DRM free, so you could just rip those
exactly
from on the internet if you were a scumbag to do that. I'm just kidding. If you are,
yeah, exactly. That stuff is out there. I mean, I've been tempted to get the Ghostwriter version just because I don't have it, in that regard, because I think that DVD is the only one that you can see for sale at like a regular price. Believe it or not, I think the other ones are like real collector's items now.
Right.
I've seen them for sale at vastly inflated prices, both online and at cons. Yeah,
so that is a thing. I want to say a viewer for a certain vintage, if you would.
Yeah, these are put out in like 03, 04, 05. It's amazing.
Yep,
how old these are,
and the fact that they're still doing it is kind of amazing, especially in this climate.
Sure.
So, congrats to them jokers. And I guess being that it's Valiant, that kind of fits. I would almost, if I was that vested in Valiant, because I think we've even said on the show that we would want to try to get into some Valiant stuff, but I'm not sure if that's penetrable at this point. Especially,
I was about to say, like, if you really want to get in on, like previous runs of like,
if you're a Valiant fan, this is probably something that you would want if you don't. Stuff.
If you want to catch up on maybe some of the older stuff like the EXO stuff that was coming out in the 90s, and you didn't buy it all and you want to catch up on it now, hey, this is the time to do it, because this is the entirety of it. This is not just one title.
591 digital comics on a USB flash drive featuring every issue that has been digitally released by Valiant between May 2012 to December 2018.
Oh, this is the newer stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not even the old school stuff. Well, it depends on how vested you are in this.
Yeah. So
my hope was that it was the older stuff.
No, I don't know what it says here. Now maybe they've already done one for that, and we just didn't, because obviously this is first time we've the Mad Magazine one. I think I've seen, but I didn't get it.
I've seen the Mad one. I've seen
and like I said, definitely I'm surprised I didn't get that Avengers one. That would be
I saw the Star Trek one too.
I didn't see the Star Trek one. That one. Yeah, that
Star Trek comics.
Yeah.
Anyway, that one's not up my alley, so I was like, all right.
That one would be up my alley.
Right.
Oh, this is interesting. So here's the look at the flash drive. It's got lightning on one end and USB on the other.
Okay.
So that's sure. That way you can either put it on
regular computer or Apple. Yeah. That's a way to plug it into an iPad.
Right.
That's an interesting. That's a pretty smart move on their part. So you don't have to sync it.
Yeah, just straight up upload it, onto the thing.
Yep. There you go.
Anyway, enough about that. We've talked about that.
Yeah, only because that's a pretty. I think we were both taken aback by this. I was like, whoa, this is.
Yeah, the fact that they're still doing this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I may actually have to hunt one or two of those down. Anyway, last but not least, excuse me. It Monopoly and It Clue are available now. And when I've read this, I thought it said It Monopoly and Clue, as in there's a Clue version of Monopoly. I'm like, wait, you made a board game of a board game? What is going on here? But no, these are It versions of both Clue and Monopoly separately. So, there's a It Monopoly, which who knows what the pieces would be, much less the squares.
Right.
And of course, Clue, which I guess would probably be a better fit. I don't know. The classic mystery game based off of a movie, Stephen King's It. Sure, I guess that's the thing. So
you got me.
You got $40 and you got the inclination. You probably already know about this and got it, but you can go pre-order them and they will both ship in. Well, excuse me, the Monopoly game is shipping in May and the Clue game is shipping in April. And apparently this is based off of the 2017 It movie, not the original.
Yeah, I was about to say it's unlikely that it would be based off of the OG. So
sure, because they would have had something like that well before that. There's plenty of Monopoly games. Regardless, that is the end of the news and therefore the end of the show. But first,
our last ad read of the night.
Yes.
For Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron. Always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today.
Oops. Oh, shit. Shoot.
Uh-oh.
I am trying to get off this stupid thing. There we go. And we have some.
I just felt like pressing that one.
Thank you, Godzilla. That's holding court. Speaking of what, that movie's coming out soon.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to watch it. Sure looks good though. But that is another topic for another time. We are going to end this here show tonight.
Yeah, I was about to say Godzilla may be one where I might dip out on the show and be like, all right, someone, we didn't have to reschedule that one.
I guess
we'll see. We'll see. I may not be so keen on opening night, but depending on how I'm feeling.
Sure. Well, stay tuned for that one, folks. And stay tuned for the next episode of this here Comic Book Chronicles. Next week, same time, same bat time, same bat channel. Hopefully closer to 9ish.
Yes.
Like we tend to try to do where we record live on Thursday nights. And yeah. So, hold on a second. Roddykat. Tim, Twitter. What is going on tonight? What is going on? Twitter, Instagram, News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can check me out at all those places. Reddit, News Nerds Need. You can check me out there. And also CBCap's Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PCN_Dirt on Twitter. And Pop Culture Network on Twitter. Pop Culture Net on Twitter. popculturenetwork.com. However, it will take you to all that site and all of his other umbrella sites. And the Osiris ish Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, CB Cron on Twitter, the Click Nation, that's the KLIQNATION, and theclicknation.com, and also Comic Book Resources, where he's writing his face off. Over there, go give him some clicks and read his stuff. And you can give us some clicks by subscribing to this here podcast on Google Play and Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
And give us some 5-star reviews.
Or 4 stars and call us fantastic. Because fantastic people. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, and of course, also the SoundCloud page of One Coastal Podcast Network, which you can also find this here podcast on, along with other fine podcasts at cspn.us. And that is it, folks. We're closing this out with our usual jobbiness. If I can pull it up, because slow on the draw because it's late.
Yeah.
This is the Comic Book Chronicles, folks. Thank you for coming out. Peace.
Peace. One.
Good evening, Rick. Would you believe it's Dr. Doom?
What's on your evil mind?
Hold your insulting tongue and mark my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really hired Mr. Stark?